Hello, we are here, Darkness Emergent, Los Angeles, 2025, and we have Alexander Ward,
I am indeed here. Hello.
a actor, a director, a creature, I suppose, an actual play everything,
Mm.
and founder of the great city of Windshield. Uh, such
Yeah.
compliment.
Yeah, I did do that. Yeah.
hmm but if you want to, we have a thing here. We're summoning stories as my channel,
Okay.
and if we were wanting to summon Alexander Ward.
Mhm.
We have a summoning circle. We have to get three things that is going to be able to summon you,
I
the
see.
essence of you.
Mm.
What are those three things?
Ooh, interesting. Okay. I'd say you'd need a last word cocktail.
Last word cocktail. Okay.
You would need a um this is such a good question. Uh
People take this very
I'm
seriously
taking it very
too.
seriously.
It's like, I don't want anyone messing this
The
up.
last word cocktail. A copy of oh boy. Oh yes. An original copy
Original copy. Okay.
of the book I Am Legend,
Okay.
not the
Not a
movie,
DVD of the
not the movie, the
thing
book.
that completely just changes the whole
Yeah.
idea of what it is now.
And then third thing would be a reliquary containing a preserved eyeball.
Okay. So we have some classic
Mm.
items. That's good because some people make this too easy to summon them, and that's
No, you
dangerous.
gotta work for it.
Okay, okay. Cocktail, original copy, the book, reliquary with an eyeball,
Hmm.
and you get Alex
And you get me.
Ward. Easy enough. Uh, Alex, if you're here, you probably know from Jasper
Yes.
or Isaac, but Jasper is who we're dealing with this weekend.
Yes, the Jasper is here this weekend at the event.
I want to talk a little bit about your concept, your creation of Jasper,
Okay.
what you were putting into him as a tabletop, an actual
Right.
play character, and now he is just a canon and part of he's in the card game and all sorts of things,
Yeah.
and now he's here to be interacted with at a LARP.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine you had that in mind
Yeah.
for when you first put him down on a sheet.
No,
So,
I really didn't.
what's changed from there, or has anything changed?
So, and I've said this before, but I played Vampire in high school, but it was we played very differently than I tend to play now in
Mhm.
regards to like LA by Night or anything like that. And my concept of what role playing was and like character design was very different. But I did play a Nosferatu for a big chunk of time during high school. And part of when I initially came into LA by Night, I was not intending to play a Nosferatu. I was intending to play a Tremere because in fifth edition, I thought they were more interesting than they had been in the past, and I wanted to explore that.
That's fair.
I agree.
It's about to cut the camera, but okay,
No,
you
no,
saved
look,
it.
look, my Zemitzi heritage, I also agree, but
Mhm.
Zemitzi didn't exist then in V5. Um, so, but Cynthia at the time had wanted to play a Tremere, so I decided to take a different path, and then
Mm,
I was kind of nudged in the direction of Nosferatu just because of like what I do in an outside profession.
right.
And I was like, you know what? Maybe it is a good idea that I kind of lean into my strengths because I, one, never done an actual play and I hadn't played tabletop games in years. So I was like, you know what? Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Just fucking lean into your strengths.
Yeah, yeah.
Do a character that you can just do without thinking
It's
about it.
great advice for making a LARP character too.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Well, it's exactly that. If you're gonna make a LARP character, regardless of whatever costuming or whatever makeup you want to put on yourself, your limitations and who you are as a person are going to be present there with you.
Right.
So making a character that is somewhat at least close to you makes your job just easier and allows you to, I think, have more fun,
Great.
especially in a LARP scenario. So we putting together these characters, and I was like, okay, well, reconstitute my Tremere background into a Nosferatu who loves magic more than anything, but never got it.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, that's an interesting concept of him being like, he did something terrible. He really wanted, when he was a human, he was looking to find magic. He never found it. He fucked up. He moved across the country, made a new life for himself, and then got turned, as a punishment for what he had done. He thought he had escaped his past life and he didn't, and then was turned. And then that was kind of where I had landed with Jasper when we started the show. And I knew that I was like, okay, well, he is a Nosferatu. I had a physical description of him, which the community ignored. And uh, but I was also like, he moves and like because of the transformation that happens when you become a Nosferatu. His body worked differently. He was a little hunched. He was all these things, and he kind of sat in these like he would crouch and he would kind of be this less than human, sort of more kind of bestial. But then he just became something completely different as the show went on, and
As
like, and
characters do.
as characters do, and like then the relationships he had with other characters, his relationship with Annabelle, with the rest of the coterie, with Eva, with X, all made him into something different, not necessarily better. And like there is a lot of romanticizing online about the relationship between Jasper and Eva, and then but I caution people to really look into it because there is a lot of manipulation. There's a lot of like not great relationship dynamics within that relationship.
Yeah, yeah, and they're not hard to find.
No.
No.
And so I caution you in romanticizing that relationship because although we look good on screen,
Oh, the aesthetic is
it's
what,
great,
yeah,
but
that's what
like
people made.
it was not good. I was feeding into all of her worst, tendencies as a kindred, and she was confirming all of my worst ones
Mhm.
and like letting my obsessions run wild. Not that it was her job to stop them, but she gave me access to knowledge that I wanted, and like it was just.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, who I initially intended Jasper to be it doesn't matter because what he became was better than I could have ever written down on paper in the beginning, and he became a character that I truly do love, but it was also born out of a time in my life where I was very unhappy with myself and unhappy with my situation in just my personal life.
Mm,
And so I really kind of channeled those feelings into him, and it was helpful in a way to like have a release for them,
yeah.
but it wasn't necessarily dealing with any of the problems that were actually in my life. I wasn't fixing those things. I was just letting them be and then funneling that energy into a character, which,
Yeah, being able to access some emotions
yeah.
without the root of what's causing the emotions.
So eventually, when I did work on the problems in my life and fix those things, it became harder to play Jasper. And I've said this before.
Mhm.
Jasper is incredibly depressed and he's a coward and he's all of these things and like hates himself. And it was just like when I started to live my life better, I was like, "Oh, I gotta put myself back into that spot." And, like, it was as an actor, I loved it. I was like, "Hell yeah, let's throw ourselves
Yeah,
back in there." But it was more work than it had originally been because at the time when I started, I was like, "I can just be here. It's fine. I'm here all the time," like
yeah,
so it was just an interesting trajectory of, like, being this man who does not change and is fundamentally, like, even though he could, he refuses to. And then being like, "Oh, I'm not that person anymore. That's really nice that I'm not who that was when I started," It's like,
yeah, yeah. And you got to access, I guess, enough real stuff to
yeah,
really feel out the character. And now I guess it feels more like acting now when you
yes.
access him.
Yes, it,
Huh.
it was a wonderful gateway for me to come back into tabletop RPGs, which I love with my whole heart. But I had missed for so long because I just knew no one who played when I moved to LA. And then being this character who was a lot like me at the time, in some ways, allowed me a good gateway to come in and feel comfortable and remember how to do this and like, and then really and change the way I played. And I'm now so much better at them than I used to be, and, like, I love playing them so much, and I really love diving into these characters, and that's my favorite part of this whole thing and why I love VTM so much because it really, help lets you do that.
Yeah. I think there's really good advice in that too when you said they they just became changed by the people around them.
Mm,
I think that's the best thing you can do. And they, like you said, became better than what you had even
yeah.
originally envisioned because
Yeah,
your collaboration is always going to come up with something
exactly.
better. And
Well,
that's something to keep in mind when making a character. And for LARP and stuff is you're interacting with everyone else's main character or
right.
whatever. So
exactly.
let yourself be influenced, and it's gonna
Absolutely.
be so much better.
Yeah, the a character made in a vacuum will not perform as well as a character that lets his surroundings influence them, whoever they are. And I like, I mean, and this is not, a secret, but like the relationship with Jasper and Eva was not my idea. I had no intention of doing that,
Mhm.
but it was something that Jason and Josephine came up with, and then they brought it up to me, and kind of, hinted at it in the game, and then we had a conversation about it, and I was like, no, let's see where this goes. And it was the best decision that that character could have had as far as their storyline, and like I loved that story, and it gave so much more for Jasper to deal with, other than just being a kind of snarky sidekick to the rest of the coterie. It's
Yeah.
like,
So this is canonically Jasper's here.
mm,
What can we tell the people what Jasper been up to, and how are you going to approach Jasper to LARP? I think is going to be very interesting
yeah,
because, like you said, he wasn't a snarky sidekick, but a lot of Jasper was observing,
yeah,
grunting, growling,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and eh, reacting to things.
So it's gonna be interesting. Like, and as any LARPer or tabletop player knows, is that like you plan a little bit, but you can't fully plan what's gonna happen, and we'll see
Hmm.
what happens. But like, and there is a difference between like Jasper is a canonical character within the world of darkness. I do not own the rights to Jasper, which is fine. They decide what happens to Jasper canonically. I have a headcanon for what Jasper is doing. It is by no means canonical. It's just what I believe he's been up to. I just want to make that clear. Jasper, at the end of season 5, Annabelle left, Eva left, Victor and Nellie went off to do their Baron bullshit.
Hmm.
So his X is the bottom of the ocean. Almost everybody that Jasper cared about or had a connection to left,
Yeah.
or he perceives them to have left him, except for Archangel. So he does work with Archangel on occasion whenever she needs something from him. He will make sure he kind of went back to where he started, which was stalking Chloe. And so he continued to do that. I believe right now, as far as I know, in the actual canon, or in at least the canon of LARP tonight, I do not know where she is.
Mm,
I've lost track of her.
okay.
Um, but Jasper's gotten worse as far as like my headcanon is concerned. Like, because of a technicality that was said between him and Eva when she asked him to stop feeding another kindred.
Mm.
He doesn't consider Thin Bloods kindred.
Oh,
So he's been feeding on Thin Bloods that Victor let into the valley,
okay.
partially to spite Victor.
Of course.
So he's become kind of a Thin Blood boogeyman in that. And so, like, the Baron said this is a safe space for Thin Bloods, but we keep disappearing.
I love
So
that.
that's kind of my headcanon for where he's at right now, is just living in those labyrinth and living in the sewer, any tunnels or like underground, and just being
Mm.
there, and then finding, kind of just haunting the Thin Bloods that can't stop him.
Right. Keeping his word,
Yeah, keeping his
doing the right
word
thing, of
technically,
course, and being a nightmare for a
and
whole
then
group of people
also
because of it.
when he remembers, trying to find a way to fix X, and has found a little bit. As in the with tonight,
Mhm.
he has found a way to wake X up for a few nights, but he will have to go back down.
Oh,
So after these few nights, he will have to go back in until I can find a more permanent solution.
interesting. I just watched X come out of a box and
Yep,
become a baron.
yep,
There's a time limit on that.
there is.
Okay, okay. It's very exciting, and also, well, a reason you should go to these and
Yeah.
get to interact with these plots and these characters in very interesting ways. Uh, Sorry, now my head's spinning with all this stuff because I will be there uh, with my Thin Blood coterie mate, and I'm very excited now.
Oh yes. Well, no one knows Jasper's doing this.
No, no, no. I know my character doesn't
Yeah.
know. Uh, that doesn't mean I can't be excited for it. But going from that to another project you're working
Hmm.
on, something I love, this Project Ghostlight, Private Nightmares, which as of now, who are never watching this, but it's ongoing as far
Yes,
as this
it is
interview,
ongoing as far as this
and
interview is
I'm
concerned.
locked in on the Patreon, as
Thank
you
you.
should be.
I appreciate
I
that.
watched Ep 5 right before getting on a plane for
Oh, hell
this,
yeah.
and
I'm
uh,
excited for episode 6.
so tell us a little bit about what concept of it. What is it? I guess if someone truly isn't in the know.
If you've never seen it, so I do run my own, VTM tabletop game. Well, tabletop is a loose interpretation. As of right now, in this recording, New York by Night is on pause. Well, it'll starting up some point, but we have no date yet. So as of and because we've been on this hiatus for a little while, and I was and my co and I when we did New York by Night, my coterie mates and I loved playing together so much, and Bria and Mayana and Joey and I loved playing with Xander, so much from LA by Night. And I was like, I miss playing so much. And there wasn't, and at the time, I was doing a lot less tabletop stuff when I first kind of conceptualized this. Um, I just wanted to play a game again. And I was like, fuck, okay, well,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess I'm the storyteller. Shit.
Like how at all levels, that's the common thread. It's
Yeah.
like I really want to play a game. Oh, I'm gonna have to do this, aren't
Yeah,
I?
yeah. So then,
You
like,
can never escape it. Just know that.
I'm fortunate enough to live very close to Joey, my coterie mate from New York. And so most mornings we will walk and get like coffee in the morning. And so we just started talking about a show idea. And then he is now my like co-producer and also does all the technical stuff behind the scenes, all the camera work and everything like that, which is what he did for all of LA by Night. He was our tech guy.
Yeah.
um, and then my other friend Tom Menino, who is here this weekend playing Donnie,
Oh, okay.
is my other co-producer and
Okay.
helps me with like he does a wonderful thing for me, which I desperately need, which is for somebody to be watching the episodes while I do them and then come to me and be like, that was really fucking cool when you did this. Because I can't pay attention to that while I'm doing it.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
just comes in and is like, this works, this is great. And he's paying attention to the story while I do it, which is wonderful. So the three of us kind of just like got together and we're like, what do we want to do with a show? And I had an idea for a long time that like I had pitched to Jason originally for New York, of doing New York kind of like staging wise we do for Private Nightmares.
Okay, I was gonna
Um,
ask, like, what was
yeah,
the
I had an
conception of that?
idea a long time ago of like getting up and moving
Uh-huh.
and like wanting to kind of do it in this way. So we shot, which I believe is on the Patreon, a kind of like a concept version of the way we wanted to do things. And we gave it to him and he's like, this is really cool, but it's not a vibe of our show. And I was like, fair. So I kept it in my back pocket and just kind of thought about it for a while. And then when we started talking about the show, I was like, well, what if we do it like when we did our proof of concept? And then that kind of spiraled and we kept talking about things and talking about things. And then eventually we were like, oh, I think, fuck, we're going to do this. But we really wanted to do it in a theater. And that was um, very important to the style of how we wanted to do things. So we found a theater in North Hollywood that was very kind to let us rent the place and use it. And we just got in there and felt it out, and we started shooting episodes, and it just kind of fell together. And I really also wanted to explore Thin Bloods as a a vampire type because like they're talked about a lot, but having a full Thin Blood coterie I think is very interesting, and we get to really see it from their perspective, which I think is important as they are the subject of a lot of discussions of non Thin Bloods.
Yes, yes.
And so following the decision of whether or not they decide to go full kindred or stay Thin Bloods is I'm leaving up to the players to see where they go with that.
Okay, okay.
And yeah, it's been really great to watch them just kind of like one tell this new story, but also tell the story. I wanted them to set like I have a vibe, I have a way of doing things, I have a way of explaining things. But I wanted them to set the tone of how this game went because I wanted it and needed it to be distinct from LA by Night, New York by Night, and the way Jason does things. And I wanted to kind of have my own version of telling vampire. And I just so far it's been great. I've been really enjoying it. It's stressful to do your own show, but it has been great, and I'm happy so many people seem to like it.
Yes, yeah. It's really this. It's an overall good thing that there's a abundance of actual plays
Mhm.
in vampire. Like now, it's
And there's so many good storytellers. I mean,
yeah,
Miss Magitech's wonderful, and like, and I love Jason, and
yeah.
like,
It's a million things, and all have raised the bar. Now, the bar's just been consistently raised in interesting ways, and I feel like this was the first one in a while that I get just the stage in
Yeah,
itself. I feel like gave it a very different feel in a really interesting way, and then also like you have such a unique storyteller style, and that was something I was
just pure
really.
panic the whole time. Just okay.
It's you do a weird hybrid of like your it's storyteller. I call it like a story creature because you
Yeah.
also like just you dip in and out of this into the scenes.
Well, kind of in the this hasn't really been touched, and nor do I ever think it will really be touched on as far as like actual narrative within the game. But there are a few we did on the Patreon. There are a few like prologue little episodes,
Yes, 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 yes.
where it is me, sort of like a therapy session between me and the player as their at the moment their character is turning into a kindred. So the moment the beast settles inside them is when we're speaking. And it's kind of though me as the storyteller is the beast transitioning into their body and becoming part of them. And so that was something I really wanted to continue into the actual storytelling is that I'm one, yes, I'm telling the story. I'm being all the NPCs that are around them. I am setting the scene. I am also constantly needling at them as though I am their beast.
Yeah.
And I am also kind of a representation of their beast always floating around them and being near them. And I kind of settled into this like, oh, I can like go, but yeah, but you don't really feel like that. You're not really thinking that. You're feeling this. And I can kind of like play with their emotions and pull at strings to make them feel things and be annoyed and like, it's
It's fascinating, and like I said, you guys use the movement. You really do use the movement, and you can watch that evolve as the episodes go.
yeah.
I remember that in the first episode, there's the moment where they're like they. I'm sure everyone knew they're allowed to get up
Yeah.
and move, but there's still that first like the first time you do it, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, we're gonna just switch spots, and like
Yeah.
these aren't our assigned seats and whatnot."
Yeah.
And till where now it's just so
People get up and
natural.
move.
People are constantly moving and things like that. Then you also just come in behind them. And you're
Yeah.
just in their ear.
Well, and it was very much a conscious decision of being like, hey, don't if the camera doesn't need to be on me, don't have it on me. Like I don't want to exist. I want to be the voice that tells the story. I want to be their beast. I want to be all these things that float around them, but I don't need the camera to be on me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I need the camera to be on them. And you can catch, like, by all means, have me in focus or like out of focus behind them, or like, but don't worry about making sure I'm in the shot.
Yeah, which is such a cool thing for your a storyteller is yeah, how you shift
Yeah.
in and out of like you become part of the scene.
Yeah.
But and I like how it's a version of the beast, like you
Yeah.
said. But like also you I could tell you're playing like you don't have a hard set of rules, with a lot of people with these things that I run into too is like, oh no, a beast is this and it should be like this and whatnot. Is like you just kind of like you let it be what it needs to
Yeah.
be.
And
And
yeah, we're very much sitting in the improvisational aspect of this. And there are some things that like maybe different than your home game at home and like you do rules differently. And I have a disclaimer at the beginning being like, hey, this is just how we do
mhm,
it. Like
mhm.
it's no shade on the rules, it's no shade on anybody else. But like I just want to do a show this way. This feels good to play it this way.
Yes, this is on purpose.
Yeah.
Mhm. And as much as you choosing to do that and like, needle at them and make them question things, which I love that choice, but I also love the choices of the players, not
Yeah.
or the characters. Seeing how the characters react or don't
Yeah.
react to that, also
I
like
love it.
that's so much storytelling
Yeah.
in itself. Is you could see the ones that ignore it or
Yeah.
try to ignore it, and the ones who always respond and,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and have just like an open dialogue
Yeah.
almost. And the prologues, the little
I loved
intros,
those.
they had such different takes on how to interact. And I love the
Yeah.
ones that like wanted to really know what you were and ask you questions. You just being like, nope, not answering that.
Well, and
Ah,
what I was trying to do with those prologues is to have the beast kind of slowly start matching the energy of the person he was becoming.
yeah, yeah,
And so it was kind of like I would try and like be how whatever they were giving me, I was giving it back to them. Because it's the beast that's becoming part of you and is kind of learning who you are. And everybody's beast is an individual thing and different, but it is all of the same affliction that each person has is having this hunger inside of them. So
hmm no, it's awesome. And like I said, and then you get to use like your profession. Like I
yeah.
can see like how you move and lurk behind them and things like that. This weird presence that will enter a scene, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah, sometimes I don't even know I'm doing it.
Yeah, and I could tell too. That's why it's perfect. You go from you're an audience in some of these scenes.
Yeah.
You'll be in the background. You'll just be like leaning against the couch watching, and then suddenly you could see your body shift. I'm like, Beast is coming, and they don't see it because you're behind them, and then they're gonna
I
hear
love
it.
it.
It's so good,
It's very fun.
so good. And then also it tapped into something really interesting with, well, as you said, you pitched it for a potential like New York by Night
Mhm.
thing, and they said it wasn't a vibe. I think in retrospect, it that makes sense to
I
me.
think it's the correct decision, yeah.
Where at first, when I saw like, oh, it's on stage and this and that, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be like very, which it is very professional,
Yeah.
but I was like, it doesn't. You you don't polish it.
No.
Don't polish in the sense that it's edited, but you keep a lot of like it has a home game feel
Yeah, we
for
wanted it
something
to
that
be.
is so not a home game.
Yeah.
It nails a home game feel
Mhm.
more than so many actual plays that
Yeah.
I see of home game friends.
Well, we wanted to. I'm very much always pushing of like don't edit as little as possible because
Yeah,
the only times we really edit is when like there's a tech thing that we need to get around or like there's a rules question that we just need to figure out really quick and
yeah.
it doesn't matter, it doesn't need to be in the episode, it's just us being like, wait, fuck, how do we do this, like,
Mhm.
and we go and figure it out and then like come back and start up again and like,
I could watch most of those too.
yeah,
'Cause they also release the behind the scenes
we
stuff.
do. So like I really want to edit as little as possible because I think that's part of what is wonderful about actual plays is you see the game being played, and I think that's very important. And like the story is wonderful, and the story is primary, and all the performances are wonderful. But I love that we are using a game to tell a story, and the game is also important. And so seeing the game play and seeing these little moments, I think, is part of it.
Yeah, and it tapped into stuff with me because my games used to be like we were sitting on like a couch and stuff and hanging
Mm,
out doing that, and we would stand up and
yeah,
things like that. And I was like, yeah, it's this is tapped into the thing of like there's something very casual about sitting on a couch, but the
yeah,
couch is on a stage and
yeah,
on a set,
yeah,
so like it's nailing a lot of things. And I when I talked to Xander talked about like how the horny couch, how him and Abria, like they would forget that they're still on camera,
yeah,
and like there are times they're just reacting to
yeah.
Louise or whoever
It's
as
very funny.
themselves, and then they forget they're mic'd and there's a camera pointing at them,
Yeah,
and you will include that too. So like,
I
it's
love it. They're great. I love all
great
those players
energy
so
all
much.
tapped into.
They're wonderful.
Um, and is this Private Nightmares? Is obviously is this the first? Is this a plan to be
Well, we don't have a lot of like we don't. How do I want to say this? The plan is to just keep going right now. Where
okay?
we shoot episodes. We have no like season structure really. There might be times where we like have to take a break to just kind of like hit a point where like okay maybe there'll be a little
Oh,
break.
really? So you don't have like a set? We're
We
doing.
don't have a set. We're just
Oh,
making
okay.
episodes as we make them. We have a shooting schedule where we how we shoot them to make sure we have enough episodes. But it's just more. I want because we are not beholden to like a channel that is doing a thing or like and because we're kind of doing this on our own, I want narratively for the story to dictate when there's a good time for a pause or when there's, I'm just we're just feeling it out as we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, that's another home game
Yeah.
feel. Like I don't know, it's such a good hybrid of those.
Yeah.
I could talk forever about this. I might. But
That's very kind
there
of
could be
you.
another video.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on the
Well,
oh, go ahead.
well, it was a our show Private Nightmares, like LA by Night and New York by Night really kind of started bridging the gap between LARP and tabletop.
Hmm.
With us being in costume, with us being physical with each other and touching and all the making out. And then with Private Nightmares, I think we took a little bit of a step further, getting up and moving around and really kind of introducing the. And Xander is a huge lover of LARP, and so like we really wanted to incorporate some of those elements, but still, we are playing a tabletop game. We are using the tabletop rules. We are using dice. We are using all these things, but I just wanted a little bit more of that moving around and that being physical. Um,
Vampire's a good game for that because
yes,
you're not constantly needing to
no,
roll and go do it. You really can like let a thing breathe on your feet for a while before having to.
but in that, I'm very inexperienced when it comes to LARP. Like I've only done a few LARPs in my life. I did the previous Darkness Emergent and then one other LARP in my life, and that's it.
Oh,
So I'm very interested to see kind of how tonight goes with bringing Jasper into this game and having him be a physical presence and move because I never got to get up and move as Jasper really.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm interested to see how that goes and how that feels and how interacting with people goes. It's he's not an easy person. Like this would be easy if I was Isaac.
Yeah, yeah.
I could go through a room and be fine and like do
Mhm.
the whole thing and like there would be some weirdness, but like Jasper's a hard person to bring into a huge social setting.
Yes,
So it's going to be interesting, and I'm gonna have to see how this goes.
you have ways to get out of social
I
situations too.
do, I do.
So it's
But yeah,
maybe I didn't realize you had such little LARP
I do have
experience.
very little LARP
You were
experience.
at a different LARP. Maybe that was one of your first in Texas.
Yes, that was my first LARP.
Oh, look at that. My
Yeah,
first LARP
yeah.
too was that. But there's a thing you did that I almost became a thing with my friends. Where at one point the discussion was happening, and you could, you kind of need mental breaks. And the sign to exit a scene is just to look down. I just remember there was another approach, and you just did this
Eh,
and went. And now we do that to each other in real life sometimes. And it's so
that's very funny.
you're very influential in that
Oh,
one
good.
just movement really clicked with some of us of like, I feel that
That's
on a
very
level.
funny. Uh, that's good.
Anything else that people should know?
Um, no, I mean, like, I love Vampire so much, and like, I just want to keep making stuff in Vampire. So like, keep watching fucking all the Vampire shows. Like, come out and support, and like, keep playing the game, and just lean into bad decisions.
Lead into bad decision. That's the official advice from
Yes,
Alexander
it is
Ward to
indeed.
the impressionable people out there.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Really looking forward to seeing Jasper.
I am too.
And that's it for us. Thank you. Bye.